All right. So we're all here. My name is Alex Galbrady.
I'm Gabriella Rico.
I'm Danny White.
I'm Janae Griffiths.
And I'm Emily Garver.
I'm excited we're all here.
Is Kayla coming?
I haven't heard from her.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll try adding her again, see if that's true. We aren't all here. We're just almost all here. Maybe she'll jump in a little late. I'm not sure. So this week we had the persuasive videos and blog, really.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think about the two different videos?
They were like polar opposites.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the question that said, like, if we were on the fence about the issue, what was it? Oh, how would we feel after listening to each speech? I would have been more persuaded to think that gay marriage is good after listening to the religious guy who was just like, this is bad, this is not ordained of God, and he was intense.
I feel like it said to find the effective speaking parts of his speech. About the only thing that I can think of that was good was that he was very sure of what he was saying. He was very confident, and he knew what he was saying. Like, he had the research down, but he didn't draw in an audience at all. Maybe if there was another very Christian person in that room who felt as strongly as he did, then maybe he drew them in. But I mean, in the other speech, he was basically making it your problem too, that his family wasn't accepted into their community, kind of a thing, like you're like, oh yeah. So
he was appealing more to emotion rather than
the
holier than thou.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I feel like the first one was it had his opinion, and it had too much of his opinion and not fact. I didn't think that there was a lot of fact to back up his opinions and his passion behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Passion, but not as much fact.
Didn't it feel to you oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it reminded when he started doing his speech, in that video we watched of the lady speaking to the class. What was her name?
Sister Barb?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one thing she pointed out is you don't bring religion into it, especially like that. So I feel like that was a big no-no that she pointed out, which I can see why. So,
yeah,
I feel like having that as his main focus was not the best idea. But he was very sure of what he was talking about. So,
yeah.
And it looked like the setting was not appropriate for what he was saying either, because it looked like a court kind of setting, and going full on, praise Jesus, and this is, what's right and what's wrong through the Lord's eyes. It's probably not appropriate for a court setting.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the pattern? I can't remember off the top of my head, and I don't have my notes open. It's the pattern where you do the you, and then is it me, you, and us?
Yeah.
That's how you kind of set it up for your persuasive essay. Mm-hmm. And you could see that exact pattern in the second guy's speech. And that's why it was so good.
Yeah. I agree. The first one, it felt a lot like it was so the opposite of holistic. He only had the one perspective. He only had the one argument. God said, no, you're going to burn in hell. You know,
Mhm.
it was fear-based, and it was very, 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 very accusatory. There was no love in it at all. There was no compassion or understanding. So it shut everyone out who didn't feel just as passionately religiously. And so by only using one argument and only coming from one stance, it was so limiting. Whereas the second guy, not only did he come from a common ground, everyone can relate to relationships and to good relationships, and goal is to become good, useful citizens. And that's what he focused on, is the common ground, and then he went from there. Whereas the other guy just he was closed off from everyone else who could possibly have experienced anything any differently than he did. The second guy didn't. He went for what would bring everyone together, which is why it was so good. And if I had listened to those two things and I didn't have the religion reason for my reasoning, I would be completely, oh yeah, no, that's totally obvious now. For the second one.
I thought it was really interesting to see the audience's reaction, because you could see like a couple people behind both of the speakers, and behind the religious guy, everyone was just like sitting there quietly, and then the guy who was for gay marriage, everyone was like nodding and like, and then after it was finished, they were like applauding, and everyone was just like so into it.
For sure. What about the blog?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
had
curious what you
a
guys
hard
thought about it.
time reading it. Like, it felt more, I don't know, it was very much like Advocate number 1, where it was very opinionated. And so I think at some point I got kind of like lost in the ramblings of his opinion. And I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's what I felt too. I felt like he was like, I have a lot of stuff to back up what I'm saying, you know, but I felt like a lot of it was still his opinion. Like pretty much the whole thing. Like he was very strong in his opinion, but yeah, I didn't feel like he had like super specific examples overall to back up everything.
He kind of seemed like you said, he was like, I have all these examples, I have all these logical reasonings behind what I'm saying, but at the same time, yeah, he kind of just was going on, and he wasn't very, it didn't seem like he was open-minded. He just had an idea, he had an opinion, and he stuck with it, and he wasn't trying to understand where other people were coming from. And what really bothered me was when he started doing the whole liberals and liberals and liberals, and I'm like, see, that doesn't
does a
help.
lot of calling out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like the very beginning, he's calling the people out who are going to be commenting on his blog or whatever. You know, I mean, I don't think that helps to win any argument.
So I felt like he did better than Advocate number 1, the guy in the video, because I did feel like he tried to use fact, like he tried to have evidence backing up. It wasn't just religious based. And so if I had to, so I don't think I liked it or disliked it, but I think I liked it just in the sense that it wasn't, so yes, he had an opinion, but he was trying his hardest to convey his opinion the best he knew how to, in the fairest way he knew how to. Because I watch the news all the time, and it is biased no matter what. And that I felt like he was trying to back what he was saying, but yes, it was biased. And so when we write any persuasive paper, to leave the bias out. The calling people out was inappropriate, but I do think I did like some of his arguments and what the family is. Like, I really liked that he's like, I can't step down from the family. I like that chunk of his. And so those are the things I liked about it. And I just think that he really tried, but he didn't see the other side. So he didn't try to write about the other side, but for his side, he did try to put in evidence and explain better than advocate number one.
I agree. I think he was a lot better than the first. I couldn't finish the video. I had to go to the transcript version because it was so painful to watch. I don't know about anyone else, but the first one was so painful, and I did think he did a lot better, and some of the reasons he had did make sense. I think he lost some of the power of his argument because of some of the faults he slipped in, but I do think he did a lot better.
I feel like the longer he went on and rambled, the less I believed him, the less I was like, okay, you're losing your credibility. The more and more he rambled, the more he lost credibility for me. The more he called people out, he lost that credibility. Because when you have to dog on somebody else to get your point across, it's inappropriate. I think.
Does anyone feel like reading the article would have changed their perspective, and why or why not?
What do you mean, reading the article?
Well, I mean, like, it was kind of,
I see what you're saying.
yeah, it was easy to compare the two videos, but it was a different form reading the blog afterwards, so not article blog, sorry. I was curious if that would change your mind, because after the video, it's like, if I was choosing between the two videos, I would choose the second video. I don't know about the blog, if it would have changed my mind or not, though.
I think what didn't convince me in the article, because I wasn't persuaded in that article, is the voice, like, of the writing. And he sounded almost mean in the way he wrote. And so I, like, immediately turned off as someone who just, like, isn't interested in hearing someone be mean. So yeah, that's how I felt, at least.
Yeah, to an extent, I appreciated his confidence in it because, you know, he felt very strongly about it, and he said it how he felt, but then again, how he talked about, you know, it doesn't really help his case to be overconfident and kind of biased in what, you know, what he's trying to advocate for. But to an extent, like, I appreciate that, you know, he chose his side and he's sticking to it. So I don't know, it's kind of a toss-up. So
Wasn't it in this class that we okay, because I get them mixed up. Did we have to watch that What Would You Do in this class? So, and from Elder Holland's talk about speaking up, and I think that's where you're trying to get at a little bit. I appreciated that he was sticking up. Like, you are supposed to stick up for what you believe in, but in a kind, loving way. I appreciated some of his arguments and that he is standing firm with the family and what he believes in, but not at the expense of being mean, like you said, Gabby.
Yeah. It didn't Elder Holland say you're supposed to be bold but not make the situation worse?
Yes.
That's where you gotta, I mean, it's such a fine line, because there's always gonna be someone who disagrees with you, who wants to make it worse, who is going, you know. And I think Sister Barlow did a really good job of showing how to be bold. And like her professor said at the end, so you're a Mormon, you know, like, they'll know by
he knew.
proclaim. Like, she didn't use any religious context or anything like that. She just used her facts and her demeanor and manner. And I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed this, she's not like a super eloquent speaker. She got nervous a couple times and like would stumble, and I mean, that meant a lot to me because I'm the same way. And so showing that she could still do that awesome of a persuasive speaking job was something that I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely what the blogger was missing. He was missing the compassion part of it. And he could have he very easily could have gotten his point across without making the situation worse.
He did have some good points, and it's a bummer.
And that's
he
why
did have some good.
I liked I liked a chunk of it, and I was like, yeah, I feel like I would say that if I was writing a paper. I think that I would add something like that. But it was, yeah.
I thought it was. I thought he brought in religion in a good way. It was just like a little snippet. It wasn't rambling on. So I thought he did that in a tasteful way. If we feel like bringing in religion to a gay marriage discussion or something like that. Like if, yeah, never mind.
I agree. I think he did it tastefully.
So I was confused almost when he brought up the birth of Jesus. I thought that was an interesting thing to bring up because Jesus was not born or conceived in the normal way at all. So the fact they used Jesus's birth as an example, made me be like, interesting choice. I just thought that was kind of funny because it's like that wasn't the normal marriage relationship that brought that child. Like he's kind of been saying for everything else. So I did think that was interesting.
Yeah, and Mary and Joseph weren't married yet.
Yeah, his dad wasn't even human.
That's probably not the best example because that one could definitely be argued against. It's not a strong, like, I guess I kind of just skimmed over that part. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about it in that way until you pointed it out, but I can see your point for sure.
He just was like the pinnacle of everything, and I was like, but that's not even the norm. It just threw me. But I did like how he brought religion into it, and I did feel like it was muted enough that it was palatable for people who aren't necessarily religious, which is important because, like the first guy, he excluded everyone because of his approach, but you can still bring religion into things in a way that people can accept. I do think he did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah. It was just like one little paragraph in this huge long essay.
Yeah.
His approach kind of reminded me of, you know how there are two types of people? There are two types of learned people. Those who get cocky and full themselves in their knowledge and in their intellect, their superior intellect, like my brother, or people who realize the more they learn, the more they realize they don't know anything, and they're humbled by what they've learned because it just humbles them. And I feel like it's so much easier to interact with the second kind of person because you can talk to somebody you feel hears you and is listening to what you're saying, even if you don't think they'll necessarily agree with you. If they're hearing you and you feel validated talking to them, that's when discussion can happen. That's when debate can happen instead of just arguing. And I do feel like that was what we were bothered by with his blog. Was it didn't feel like he was open to discussion. He wasn't open to the other point of view. She didn't give us that many questions this week to work with.
Yeah. I also think that I watched these videos and read this blog differently because of what I've learned from Sister Barlow. Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
I think that I watched them differently because of what I learned from her. And so maybe I would have not been as critical of them had I not learned, how to be persuasive appropriately. Because I thought about that before I got on. I was like, man, maybe I would have been more persuaded by that blog if I not all of it, but I think that I would have been more persuaded by his blog had I not learned what I learned this week. Because I liked a lot of it. I really liked what he said about, you know, you have to have a man and a woman to end that argument. And I liked parts of it, but because of what I learned from this week, it made me a lot more skeptical about what I was reading.
One thing that stuck out to me too in the video that she did was she's like, you need to research and know a lot about the opposing view too, because I think we get so caught up in needing and wanting to know the information on our point of view that we kind of lose that motivation to find out the opposing view. But that's one thing she pointed out. It's so important that we know both sides of the argument and we're knowledgeable about both sides, and that will make us more credible in our research and our advocacy.
I liked in that part too, Danny, where she said that you make sure to be the one to bring up those opposing views first, because then they can't say anything back to you. And so if you're in control of that, then your persuasion's obviously going to go a lot smoother. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
How hard do you think it is to hold on to the reasonability when you're trying to be persuasive when it's about something you're really passionate about? Because I know I'll start and I'll be really calm and really level-headed, and then somebody will say something, and it will make it really hard for me not to be like, how could you say that? You know, someone will say something. For me, the hot button is someone says something against our religion or something that's really pointed. My brother's anti, that's what comes to mind, you know. It's really hard for me not to want to snap and just defend, you know, and to keep myself calm and reasonable so that the conversation can actually go somewhere.
I think it's just a skill that you have to kind of develop. And I know that sounds so hard because it's something that you just want to be able to control yourself. But it's really, so I'm in HR, and I've had to learn how to, you know, stop and like observe and listen before I react to something that I'm finding out. And I have to find out both sides. And so it's been a process. It's still a process. I'm still learning. But I think that's kind of how you kind of have to go about it, is you have to stop and observe and then react to the situation. That's my 2 cents there.
I agree. I think that it's something that you develop. Being a new mom will help because your kids, like my son is 4 and he talks back and I just want to snap and yell, but you learn. And for me, I am constantly telling myself, is it worth it? Is me raising my voice? Is me reacting? Is it going to be worth it? Is it going to get the result that I want? I think I was more like you, you know, 4 years ago, or about 5 years ago when I first got married. But, you know, you continually develop those skills, especially when, and with your husband, you know, you develop skills to hold your tongue. So you'll figure it out, I promise.
I think it's easier for me in person than on social media. On Facebook, it's where it's hard. It's like, why worry about it or deal with it? But in person, I feel like people are more respectful when they aren't through a computer screen, first off, which helps. And second off, it's the human interaction makes it a lot easier than on Facebook. Oh, people, it's like so much easier for us to just say things and not think about it. But when we're looking someone in the face, it's a lot harder to be rude or short-tempered with someone. So I think that helps. And I'm trying to get, because so much of our culture is now online and on social media, I'm starting to try to develop that more. And so that's kind of fun, but that's kind of what came to mind as well with the persuasive speaking, is to have patience to speak persuasively.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of times on social media, those conversations just escalate out of control, and so many people say things that they probably would never say to your face. I think because I don't know if they don't make that connection that they're actually saying that to someone, because they're not face to face, or, they just think they're, stronger on, I don't know. But I agree that, on social media, things like that, it's probably not the best place to really argue about stuff like that, even though it does, just because it definitely escalates out of hand a lot quicker, I think, in most cases, than you would face to face with someone. But
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add? I think we've done a good 20 minutes at least, thank goodness.
I don't think so.
So who wants to be in charge of starting the conversation next week?
I haven't done it yet.
Oh, I don't care.
Oh, you want to do it?
I don't care at all.
Okay.
I was just gonna offer.
Okay. Well, I haven't done it, so I'll learn how to do it and try next week, but I'll let you guys know if I can't figure it out.
Emily, if you want, I'll send you the link I'll send you an email with everyone's emails and a link to what I followed to get on Google Live.
Oh, okay.
Hangout Live. It helped me a lot. It just clicked one button kind of a thing.
Okay, that would be very helpful.
Happy to help. So would our summary of this meeting be that we thought the purely emotional and religious first argument was really not persuasive, even though we're even all religious. It was still a turnoff because it was so unrelatable. But we felt the second one was more relatable because it came from a place of common ground and a feel-good place, and so it made everyone want to relate to it better. It made everyone want to connect to it and agree with it better. And we thought the blog was a lot better than the first one, not as persuasive as the second one, but had some good points and had some good logical points, but also had some fallacies and some weaknesses with being too pointed and tacking on different people of different opinion.
Perfect summary.
Thank you. All right. In that case, I think we're good. Do you guys have anything else to add?
No.
Thanks for setting it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help. I'm glad I could be involved this week.
Yeah. Yeah. Stay healthy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Stay healthy. See you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully I will not be seeing you guys from a hospital again.
Good.
Bye.
Good night.
I will see you guys next week.